Welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program. I'm Kelsey Kiesling.
And I'm Kendra Cook. Dolores County Broadcasting Network is the producer of DCTV, and the Southwest TV Translator Association underwrites the news show.
If you have a news topic or tips you'd like to see covered, give us a call. The studio number is 677-4119.
Today's show is live on Tuesday at noon and rebroadcast at 3 and 6 p.m. and again re-aired on Friday at noon, 3 and 6. Today is October 17th, 2017, and now the news at noon. From the Durango Herald Court Report, 2 jury trials are underway this week in La Plata County, one against a man suspected of sexual assault and another against a man suspected of burglary. About 430 jury summons were sent to residents in the 6th Judicial District, which includes Archuleta, San Juan, and La Plata counties. Only about a third of summons typically find their intended targets and result in people showing up as required by law, which means about 140 people reported for jury duty on Monday, according to a judicial employee. An exact count was not yet available. Jury selection and opening statements were made in the trial against John Molloy, who is suspected of burglarizing Pine River Pond on April 13th in Bayfield. Deputy District Attorney Reed Stewart and Molloy and a New Mexico man discussed stealing a bike but ended up stealing 4 bikes and 5 handguns worth more than $2,000. Molloy provided bolt cutters and other burglary tools to break into the pawn shop, Stewart said. He also provided a garage where the bikes could be taken apart so the parts could be sold in New Mexico, he said. In interviews with police, Molloy admitted to much of his involvement, Stewart said. He was also seen on video surveillance at the pawn shop. His public defense lawyer, Barry Newberger King, said Molloy stole 3 bikes, but that's it. He didn't return on a second trip to steal firearms. If true, that would apparently reduce the seriousness of the charges. The trial is expected to last 3 days. The second trial involves a La Plata County man who is suspected of sexual assault as a juvenile. The incident happened several years ago when the man was also a juvenile and the victim was a much younger child. The case took several years to come to fruition, in part because the alleged victim took several years to report the incident and because the case has faced many legal challenges. A jury had not been seated as of 4:30 p.m. Monday afternoon.
Reported by the Cortez Journal, 3 people were transported to Southwest Memorial Hospital after a rear-end collision Friday morning on U.S. Highway 160 east of Cortez. Trooper James Proctor of the Colorado State Patrol said an eastbound pickup truck with Colorado plates was turning left into the Ute Mountain Indian Trading Post parking lot at about 10:30 a.m. when it was rear-ended by an eastbound Chevy Cruze from Arizona. The car's airbags deployed and the hood was ripped off. Debris and glass were scattered across the highway. We now have the names of the people in the crash. The driver of the Chevy Cruze, Kiana Blue Eyes of Toyoak, was issued a citation for careless driving causing injury, according to the State Patrol. The driver of the pickup truck, Matthew Sheldon of Cortez, suffered injuries in the crash and was transported to Southwest Memorial. Blue Eyes and her passenger, Veronica Lobato, were also both transported to Southwest Memorial Hospital. Occupants of both vehicles were wearing seatbelts. Traffic was delayed for about an hour as rescue crews attended to victims and cleared the wreckage. A preliminary investigation shows that the vehicle was turning left into the Ute Mountain Indian Trading Post parking lot and another vehicle struck it from the rear, said Proctor. At this point, the investigation is ongoing, he said. The Cortez Fire Protection District, Colorado State Patrol, Southwest Memorial Hospital, and Colorado Department of Transportation responded to the crash, which happened under the Colorado Department of Transportation's Drive Safely sign.
Never-ending litigation goes hand in hand with the attempted management of our environment. Case in point from the Cortez Journal. 3 environmental groups, along with San Miguel County, have filed a lawsuit against the Bureau of Land Management alleging improper approval of oil and gas lease sales near the threatened Gunnison sage-grouse. San Juan Citizens Alliance, Rocky Mountain Wild, Conservation Colorado, and San Miguel County argue that the BLM failed to properly consider the impacts of drilling activity on the bird, which was listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act in 2014. They want the court to set aside 10 lease parcels sold in March in western San Miguel County to allow for additional studies. 8 of the leases, located in the Dry Creek Basin area, are tucked between 2 occupied critical habitat areas of the Gunnison sage-grouse. Jimbo Buick-Rude of San Juan Citizen Alliance said the BLM's reliance on a resource management plan from 2015 to satisfy federal environmental requirements for the lease sale is non-compliant. For example, the complaint says more study is needed on impacts of expected truck traffic on lease access roads, which pass through occupied sage-grouse habitat and are within 1.9 miles of leks, sensitive breeding areas where males conduct elaborate mating dances. Plaintiffs are also concerned that the approved leases don't allow the BLM to adjust or terminate company development plans that threaten the bird's habitat during the next permit stage, called the Application for Permit to Drill, or APD. According to the lawsuit, lease-wide, no surface occupancy conditions cannot be imposed at the APD level, and neither can lease-wide travel bans and restrictions be imposed if needed. The lease terms do not confirm BLM's statutory power to deny or require alterations to APDs that are likely to take or harm Endangered Species Act listed species, the lawsuit states. It further claims that under the Endangered Species Act, energy leases that, quote, may affect Gunnison sage-grouse are not valid without consultation from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which the lawsuit alleges was not done properly. San Miguel County Commissioner Hillary Cooper said the county joined the lawsuit because commissioners fear that mismanaged energy development could derail their efforts to improve the bird's population and get it removed from the Endangered Species Act list. Commissioner Cooper said her constituents understand the failure to improve the bird's numbers risks elevating it from threatened to endangered status. Environmentalists are also concerned that the two of the leases overlap or are adjacent to the nominated Dry Creek Basin area of critical environmental concern, proposed to protect Gunnison sage-grouse habitat. The current range-wide population of the Gunnison sage-grouse is estimated at 5,000 birds across the 7 population areas. The largest population, about 4,000 birds, inhabits the Gunnison Basin, and the rest are said to be spread out in 7 populations in southwest Colorado and southeast Utah. They include Pinyon Mesa, Crawford, San Miguel Basin, Gunnison Basin, Dove Creek, Cerro Cimarron, Sim, and Pancho Pass. The Utah population is near Monticello. When contacted regarding the lawsuit, the BLM said it could not comment on ongoing legal actions.
According to the Cortez Journal, Colorado energy regulators on Monday proposed tighter rules for shutting down oil and gas pipelines after a fatal explosion blamed on natural gas leaking from a line that was thought to be out of service but was still connected to a well. The Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission rules govern flow lines which carry oil, gas, and wastewater from wells to tanks and other gathering equipment. A public hearing is scheduled for December 11th and 12th, and the commissioners could vote to approve the rules after that. The rules are in response to an April 17th explosion in Firestone that killed 2 people and destroyed a house. Investigators said the explosion was caused by odorless, unrefined gas leaking from a severed flow line. Investigators said the line was believed to be abandoned but was still connected to an operating well with the valve turned to the open position. The flow line was severed about 10 feet from the house and gas seeped into the home's basement, investigators said. The well and pipeline were in place several years before the house was built. The presence of homes and schools near oil and gas operations is a contentious issue in Colorado, where the booming Front Range urban corridor overlaps with an oil and gas field. The 14-page draft of new regulations says flow lines that are permanently taken out of service must be disconnected, drained, and sealed at both ends, and any above-ground portion must be removed. The rules also allow energy companies to simply remove the lines. Bruce Basil of the Oil and Gas Accountability Project, which advocates for environmental and community protections from energy development, said the rules should require energy companies to remove all abandoned flow lines to prevent explosions like the one in Firestone. Removing them would also prevent the leak of any chemicals left in the lines, he said.
Reported by the Journal in Cortez, the new Montezuma County Combined Courthouse is the most modern in the state, with a design that also recognizes the region's ancient culture. During a grand opening last Wednesday, local and state dignitaries gathered to mark the occasion that combines district court, county court, and probation all under one roof at 865 North Park Street. The sloping building is aligned to face Mesa Verde with a circular kiva design representing the community rooms of the ancestral Puebloans. This is the newest and most technically advanced courthouse in Colorado, said District Court Judge Doug Walker, and the building's design is a nod to the prior inhabitants of the area. The county was the last in the state to finally combine both courts as required under state statutes. He said, and the result is increased efficiency, has increased and improved public service. It was built by Janes Corporation of Colorado and designed by Humphreys Poley Architects. The total price tag for the 29,000 square foot courthouse came to $9.5 million, of which Montezuma County contributed $6.6 million. The rest came from state grants, including underfunded courts and Department of Local Affairs, or DOLA. The county paid the vast majority, and they paid it out of cash reserves, not one penny of increased taxes, Walker said. This commission and past commissions were able to save money for a rainy day. The people of Montezuma County paid for and own this facility. The front public hall is flooded with natural light. It leads to 4 spacious courtrooms equipped with state-of-the-art security around sound systems and video conferencing equipment. Secure holding cells behind the scenes lead directly into the courtrooms. There are cameras everywhere, bulletproof glass, and a secure entrance monitored by an X-ray machine. During a tour, Locals 8 viewed courtrooms, checked out a research room where people can pull up case records on a computer, and visited the community Kiva room with views of Mesa Verde. Having both courts and probation officers in one building allows for improved and more convenient services for clients, said probation officer Casey Henderson. Sitting behind a bank of screens, Montezuma County Deputy Dale Foote views every part of the courthouse inside and out. He said the new security technology at the entrance is very advanced and efficient. Commissioner Larry Don Sukla explained that the county sought a new building after a bid to remodel the county building to house both courts came in at nearly $5 million. That whole building is not worth that, and the plan did not allow for future growth, so we chose to go another way, he said. This building will last 50 to 60 years into the future.
Reported by the Cortez Journal, the long and brutal 2017 wildfire season is stressing the state and federal agencies that have to pay for the army of ground crews and machinery required to fight them. The federal government spent more than $2.7 billion on firefighting in its most recent finished budget year, a record that far surpassed the previous high point of $2.1 billion set just 2 years ago. In California, firefighting costs have already chewed through more than half of the state's $469 million emergency fund for big fires just 3 months in, and that doesn't include the costs of the recent catastrophic fires that have claimed dozens of lives and thousands of buildings. California officials said Friday they expect the cost of fighting those fires will be hundreds of millions of dollars. Montana also struggled to pay for firefighting this year, with costs approaching $400 million by late September. With pressure increasing on the lawmakers and forest managers to find new ways to pay for firefighting and for fire prevention. The U.S. is seeing more and bigger wildfires, and the wildfire season is getting longer. The reasons are hotter, drier weather, and a buildup of dead and dying trees because of past fire suppression practices, said Jennifer Jones, a spokeswoman for the National Interagency Fire Center, which coordinates firefighting nationwide. The old practice of putting out all fires led to overgrown forests, some with huge tracts of trees that died at about the same time, leaving them prone to large, hot, fast-moving blazes, researchers say. Some climate and forestry experts say global warming is a factor in the increasing number of fires because it's contributing to the hot, dry weather. Jones said another development driving up costs is the increasing number of homes being built in or near forests, a number that the Forest Service estimates is about 43 million homes. Keeping fires away from people, houses, power lines, and other infrastructure is more complicated and costly than firefighting in the wilds. And now, here's our weather report.
Yesterday's National Weather Service forecast had said winds would decline into Wednesday. Today's updates indicate that the decline won't last that long, and wind speed may increase slightly tomorrow. The 7-day online either does not believe it or will be much or has not yet come up with a number. It's worth knowing that wind speeds are harder to predict than over time than some other weather functions. The fine print also indicates that precipitable water values in our western slope are low in the atmosphere, very low. The clouds we spoke of yesterday that were to arrive Thursday night are due now to be here earlier and will be noticeable through the day Thursday. The upshot of all this is that any moisture will be light. Some activity is expected over higher terrain mountain terrain in the Uinta and San Juan Mountains. Rains of less than 1/10 of an inch and up to 11, snow above 11,000 feet is in the forecast, and light snow above that level. Drier underlayers mean that you'll be able to see the rain evaporate, and the lower it falls, not much of it reaching the ground. Those elevations will drop some as evening and night come into play, and the temperatures cool. The northwest corner of Colorado and that area will see the arrival of activity later on Friday, when snow levels where activity is still present will lower to mountain bases. All that should clear out of the area by Saturday and morning and onward. There's a possibility that a flow from the northwest may have some effect on the northern mountains Sunday and Monday. That's iffy enough that I don't expect to have a clearer picture by tomorrow, so if your plans for the next week include travel in that part of our state, you'll want to check up on it late next week. My apologies for the early changes on the graphics, because I let my text get on the wrong side of the line there. The automated 5-day graphic is having a technical astral malfunction. Too little time or too much crowd noise for the quarterback to be heard in huddle, so we'll do an audible call. You could ignore the numbers on the screen. Today's high is to be 68 with a low of 41, sunny and mild. Tomorrow, Wednesday, will be a high of 69 with another low of 41, also sunny and mild. Thursday, a high of 68, a low of 42, with the increase of clouds and very light rains and snows only in the higher mountain terrain. Friday, a high of 66 with a low of 37, and back to sunny and mild. Saturday's high is now at 56, and no low is available yet. Before the weather shifts, highs will continue to run about 5 degrees above normal. Once the cold front sweeps through Friday night, highs will fall to between 5 and 10 degrees below normal. Saturday and Sunday will moderate a few degrees, and then we'll have near normal levels on Monday. And now, back to the news.
According to the Durango Herald, the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday sided with a lower court that ordered a New Mexico City to remove a Ten Commandments monument from the lawn outside City Hall. Civil liberties advocates behind the case called the decision involving the city of Bloomfield a victory for the separation of church and state. ACLU of New Mexico Executive Director Peter Simonson said it sends a strong message that the government should not be in the business of picking and choosing which sets of religious beliefs enjoy special favor in the community. However, David Cortman, a senior counsel and vice president of U.S. litigation with Alliance Defending Freedom, said the outcome did nothing to resolve confusion in lower courts involving such monuments. Americans shouldn't be forced to censor religion's role in history simply to appease someone who is offended by it or who has a political agenda to remove all traces of religion from the public square, said Cortman, whose group represented the city of Bloomfield. The decision came after attorneys for the city argued that the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals had ignored previous rulings by the Supreme Court that simply being offended by such a monument did not give someone a legal basis to challenge the monument. In other cases, a Ten Commandments poster in a Kentucky courthouse was found constitutional, and a monument on the grounds of a public building in Arkansas was determined to be unconstitutional. In Bloomfield, a concrete block that displays the Ten Commandments sits alongside other monuments related to the Declaration of Independence, Gettysburg Address, and Bill of Rights. The city claims it avoided endorsing a particular religion by placing disclaimers on the lawn stating the area was a public forum for citizens and that the privately funded monuments did not necessarily reflect the opinions of the city. The Ten Commandments monument was erected in 2011 and challenged a year later by the ACLU. Lower courts concluded it violated the Constitution's ban on the government endorsing a religion. Justice Neil Gorsuch did not take part in the court's action because he was on the federal appeals court in Denver when it considered the matter.
For the record, I personally try to avoid making premature conclusions and prefer to do regular accountability checks on things I have made conclusions about. I like to think that as long as I can think, I should always be learning. And when I am on the so-called right track, that evidence will, when honestly viewed and gain, support the conclusion or theory believed. If it does not, I look at other theories again. Many are aware of the old cliche, follow the money. Money is a motivator, not always accompanied by honesty or fairness, and that shows up in studies. Although some economic theoreticians and mathematics of economic strategies will tell you that altruistic approaches to economic matters, if viewed from a standpoint of the best long-term good of the planet, will show the best profits for the longer term. And the numbers also show that the damages done to profit by loss of corporate credibility from dishonest or unethical behavior lead to a greater loss than the temporary gain. And I think we all know that the ones who get the gain too quickly do so at the expense of way too many of the rest of us. So if I report that a new study from scientists in Sweden has revealed that flatulent shellfish are creating vast amounts of greenhouse gases, yes, it is a real and current study. And in the area studied, it is estimated that it would take 20,000 cows to produce an equivalent amount. Please do not assume I want to do away with all shellfish, because that is not so. Neither does a responsible person want to do away with 20,000 cows to save X number of shellfish. Nor is it true that of the bona fide scientist. May heaven forbid that a calculation of how many human lives would it take to offset the gas of a single cow or shellfish. But the big points, I think, are those that will ultimately lead us to a better understanding of how to prevent flatulence in the first place, whether it be in cow, shellfish, or human. The studies of digestion in all creatures should lead to better health for all creatures and therefore the planet as a whole. That is, I think, the real goal, and I hope that keeping a good goal permanently in mind will lead to better practices. More on the actual study another time.
According to the Cortez Journal, fall enrollment at Fort Lewis College is down 6.6% compared with last year, the lowest it has been in more than a decade, prompting the college to increase its effort to boost retention and enrollment even as it raises admission standards. President Dean Thomas said changing admission requirements are partly a contributing factor. The competition in higher education for freshmen and transfer students is particularly fierce across the West, Thomas told the college's Board of Trustees at its quarterly meeting Friday. Student enrollment for the fall semester is 3,356, 239 students shy of the previous year. Fall enrollment in 2016 was 3,595, which at the time was the lowest enrollment in more than a decade. During the recession in 2009, fall enrollment was 3,685. Thomas said the college is considering several ways to stem the decline, including transitioning to become a university. 4-year colleges in Colorado are raising their admission standards, which will take effect in 2019. FLC is gradually phasing into the new standards. These standards are a combination of test scores and GPA. Thomas said the number of applicants who are not admitted has increased steadily in recent years. In 2016, 614 applicants were denied admission. This year it was 752. Davis said despite declining enrollment, the average high school GPA for incoming freshmen continues to increase. Fewer students means the institution will take a financial hit, but Davis said the FLC Budget Committee anticipated the enrollment decline and planned accordingly.
From the Journal in Dolores, on a back road west of Dolores lies an oasis of cool, fresh air and apples. Martha and Dusty Teal fell in love with the Tea Lazy Tea Orchard in 2009. The couple then lived in Durango, and after hearing about the property from friends, decided to explore it on their bikes. Soon after a visit, Martha Teal knew the two were, quote, in trouble. She said they had no business buying an orchard at the time, but could not give up the 80-year-old apple orchard outside of Dolores. After purchasing the farm, the Teals immediately began working on the old trees. "We bought this place in 2010, Martha Teal said, in the spring, so we immediately started pruning because it was a neglected orchard like many around here and had a lot of dead growth." The Teals began working with Jude Schoenemeyer, co-founder of the Montezuma Orchard Restoration Project, and his wife Addie. According to Schoenemeyer, the orchard would take about 5 years to produce again. As the Teals learned more about their orchard, the more they realized how it had survived years of abandonment. From the way the orchard is positioned towards the reservoir, it was able to survive on its own after being abandoned. As their orchard became more healthy, the Teals decided to plant more. They now have 2, quote, baby orchards in addition to the historic one. The Teals followed Morp's instructions, and little by little their orchard became profitable enough to consider making cider. After completing a harvest, the Teals press all of the apples separately so they can create different blends. The cider house is a specially built room for cider to keep it at a temperature of about 50 degrees while it ferments. "It takes a long time to ferment. It's like wine, not like beer," Martha Teal said. "I like to ferment it a few months. It just makes a more complex cider." The Teals also have a tasting room and commercial-grade kitchen on their property where they make and sell baked goods, a skill they picked up after opening a bakery in Durango. For now, their baked goods are available at Kokopelli Bike and Board Shop a few times a week. After a crop of nearly 10 tons last year, the orchard, like most in Montezuma County, lost the majority of its crop this year because of a late frost. However, the Teals still have plenty of apples to work with. According to Martha Teal, they still have about 4,000 bottles worth of pressing to bottle after the fermentation process is complete. They consider themselves to be a boutique cider place, not wanting to grow big. Teal cider debuted at Wild Edge Brewing Collective in Cortez to much acclaim. Martha Teal said, "We have talked to Star Liquors in Durango about selling, West Slope Liquors here, and possibly up in Telluride. Those would be our 3 places to market." This past Saturday, the Teals participated in the Harvest Festival at Flanders Park in Dolores, exposing more of the public to the delights of a locally made hard cider.
And now for the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of October 9th through the 15th. A motorist traveling on Highway 491 reported a semi-truck that came within 3 feet of their bumper and then proceeded to pass and cause them to swerve off the road. The semi-truck then continued on, traveling at a high rate of speed. The officer was able to locate and make contact with the vehicle. Investigated a report of a careless semi-truck driver. Local parents reported to an officer that an altercation had occurred between 2 juveniles. The case is under investigation. An employee of a town business reported a case of intimidation that occurred while at work. The case is under investigation. The sheriff's office was notified of a security alarm activation on the West Fork. A local resident inspected the home and found all to be secure. A deputy responded to a car versus deer accident in Sharps Creek, Highway 491. Colorado State Patrol requested a counter report and the driver was able to continue on his trip. That's it for today's roundup. Stay tuned for continued updates.
Today's High Canyon Country happenings. This Thursday, October 19th at 7 p.m., Women in Science are hosting a liquid nitrogen ice cream making event located on the roof of Sitter Family Hall in Durango. Then at 8:15, Society of Women Engineers is having a stargazing party in the same place. There'll be hot chocolate, hot cider, and snacks. They would love it if you could attend either or both events. Don't forget to dress warm. For more information on the Society of Women Engineers, check them out on Facebook. That might be a great potential career to look into for our local young females. The 7th annual Pretty in Pink fashion show will be held Thursday, October 19th from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Four Seasons Greenhouse and Nursery. Started in 2011, this annual event benefits the Cancer Resource Alliance, formerly the Women's Cancer Coalition, which helps men and women in Montezuma and Dolores counties with financial assistance towards cancer-related expenses and regular reproductive screenings and costs related to reproductive cancer for women. Due to an increased audience and sponsorships from local businesses, they were able to donate nearly $20,000 to the Alliance last year and have donated over $40,000 to the Alliance from this event over the previous 6 years. Their goal for this year is to increase attendance to the event to 275 people and to increase the donation amount to over $20,000 to the coalition. A big thank you to the amazingly generous community. General admission is $20 and VIP tickets are $30. And the Habitat for Humanity Build Day is October 21st in Bayfield. Hosted by the Pine River Valley Rotary Club, join them in painting, hammering, landscaping, and supporting the new home being built in Bayfield. It's an all-day event from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. By giving, you get back more than you can imagine. All of the happenings are posted up on our DCTV News at Noon Facebook page, along with the YouTube replays, weather, and original stories and local posts. To share your event or information, contact us. It's dcbnnews@gmail.com or call us at the station at 677-4119 and we'll be sure to get your news on air.
Thanks for tuning in. News at Noon airs live at noon Monday through Wednesday and then is rebroadcast at 3 and 6 p.m. and again re-aired Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the same order at noon, 3, and 6.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook. Again, it's DCTV News at Noon. Please like us there and share it with a friend.
For Kendra Cook and Jerry Tope with the News at Noon program out of Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. Thanks for watching.